of Liberty.
Our country is strong. A great people has been moved to defend a great nation. Terrorist attacks can shake the foundations of our biggest buildings, but they cannot touch the foundation of America.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
Inherently and historically oppose the secret society.
We, as Americans, have the capacity now, as we've had in the past,
long ago,
to do whatever needs to be done to preserve this last and greatest bastion of freedom.
Far outweigh the dangers
in this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
Wouldn't be a show if we didn't have a technical problem. Welcome back to Embers of Liberty, where I constantly forget to change my mic settings, and I've got to fix the Stream Deck to unmute my microphone when we start. So, back to the normal schedule this week, and that calls for a Joe. How was your week?
It was good, man. I'm glad it's, the weekend, though.
Indeed. Glad that it is the weekend. I had to take a test today in my Survey of the Old Testament class. You want to talk about
nice,
interesting? That class is interesting. Probably the most interesting class that I've got this semester, because accounting, snooze fest, statistics, snooze fest, microeconomics, snooze fest. So Survey of the Old Testament is like it. That's the class. So, it is what it is. Howdy, Malik. Howdy, Probst. Glad to have you here. But
Malik's here?
Yes, that's what I just said. Howdy, Malik. Jesus Christ, you don't pay attention at all, do you?
No, you kind of broke up a little bit.
Nope. Don't lie to me, boy. Don't lie. Don't lie to me, boy. Anyway, we got a lot of nothing to cover this week. I mean, there's a couple of things to talk about, but really it's been a fairly quiet week.
Well, except for the shooting in Georgia.
No. It's only relevant because it's an election season.
Well, no, because it's a school shooting, so it's going to be...
It only matters to people because it was at a school. But anyway, so let's get right into it. Let's talk freedom things. America, fuck yeah! So, speaking of what Joe was just talking about, we will get right into the meat of the show and talk about this school shooting that happened in Atlanta. I haven't really dug too deep into it yet. I've just kind of skimmed the surface. But from what I'm hearing, the shooter and his father were questioned by the FBI over a alleged threat to shoot up a school last year. The shooting was carried out by a 14-year-old who will not be named on this podcast unless it is by somebody other than us, aka a video, because he doesn't deserve the recognition. I kind of take the Shapiro rule on shootings. Stop talking about them. It's a social contagion of sorts, because these kids and or adults know that carrying out a shooting like this will get them notoriety and people will know their names. It's a
We don't
great
want
way to leave a legacy that none of us really want and that nobody should want. Regardless, this 14-year-old dyed-haired kid carried out the shooting with an AR-15 purchased for him by his father for Christmas. This comes after the FBI has questioned the father and the son about threats to shoot up a school. So, Father of the Year award goes to that kid's fucking dad because he's a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Why? So, my question is, why in the fuck would you purchase an AR-15 for your child after they are suspected to have threatened to shoot up a school? You either wanted him to do this because you're a sick bastard, or you're literally just that stupid. By the way, the dad's been arrested now because the father provided the child with a weapon.
Right.
And prior, when the FBI was questioning them about the alleged threat to shoot up a school, which I now fully believe was this kid, because it would appear that, that's what he wanted to do. Or, the FBI radicalized him, one of the two. Wouldn't put it past them either. So, there were, I think the count is up to 4 people killed. Is that right?
Not sure. Let me double check that.
Yeah, let's check real quick.
Four dead, 9 injured.
Yeah, 4 dead, 9 injured. Let's see. We're going to share the screen here. Sit here all day long and they will tell you it's the guns. Now, Joe, why is it not the guns?
Because guns are inanimate objects.
That's right. Guns are inanimate objects. You know what it is, though? It's the parents. The parents, in today's day and age, are not raising their children. They're letting the TV do it. They're letting the iPad do it. They're letting YouTube do it. They're letting teachers do it. They're letting everyone, except for them, be a parent to their children.
Exactly.
And I feel as if you raised your children correctly and beat the shit out of them when they needed it, not actual abuse, but, beat that ass, right?
Right.
If appropriate disciplinary actions had been taken throughout the child's life, they more than likely would not end up being a school shooter. It's also a well-known fact that schools are soft targets. They are not very well guarded. no firearms are allowed on the premises unless you are a law enforcement officer, or in the state of Alabama, if you have a concealed carry permit. By the way, if you didn't know that, Joe, you do now. Obtaining a concealed carry permit in the state of Alabama permits you to carry a firearm in places you would otherwise be prohibited, such as a school.
Did not know that.
Yep. So, again, I think the problem here is the dad. No mention of the mother, so I'm assuming the mother is either dead or not in the picture.
The only thing that I don't like is setting the precedent for charging parents with crimes of of their child. That's the only thing I don't like about it.
So in this instance, I'm pretty okay with the father being charged because he provided the weapon knowing that his son had already been investigated for threatening to shoot up a school. That in and of itself should have been like nah, I'm not buying you a gun.
Right, exactly.
Because
and all the guns are going under the guns are going under lock and key too.
And you're going to therapy.
Right.
You know, not that I think sometimes therapy helps, right? But not in all cases. So I struggle to understand the Democrat logic of it's the guns when it's clearly not the guns. Because if you were to sit a gun in a school for 5 years, the amount of people that gun just randomly shoots by itself will be exactly 0. So how is it the guns? Short answer is it's not.
Exactly.
The short answer is, or the longer answer is that to them it will always be the guns because they don't want you to have the guns.
Exactly.
You can ask any nation in recent history that has been disarmed by their government how that worked out for them.
Well, look at what is the country right now dealing with Nicolas Maduro?
Oh, that would be Venezuela.
Oh, you mean the same ones who we have hordes of people coming here taking over our cities?
Yes, with guns, by the way.
Yes. And
let's see. Let's ask the UK how it worked out for them. Oh yeah, mass stabbings. Let's ask 1940s Germany how that worked out for them. Oh yeah, that's right. Fucking resulted in genocide. Let's ask the Australians how that worked out for them. After they experienced one mass shooting. Oh yeah, that's right. The government literally took over your entire life and told you to get your ass back in the house and wouldn't let you leave your city. You know where none of that has happened? America.
America, baby. America.
Because...
Hell yeah, boy!
Because,
Because if you try that shit in America, we are
I am getting the pig!
Yes. I don't have a couple of the buttons that I really want. Like the click-clack motherfucker.
Oh, yeah.
So this is obviously a tragedy, right? Like, I don't want to see school shootings, but we have solutions that would indeed solve the problem that don't involve removing firearms from law-abiding citizens, right? Because at the end of the day, the Constitution is very clear. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Oh, but Justin, you left out the a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state part. Yes, the well-regulated militia in 1776 meant every fighting-aged male. So...
Also, since we're talking about, trying to figure out what we can do about this, I'm shoving this at the bottom of the school notes dealio here, where Kamala Harris wanted to remove school resource officers.
Let's just share.
Emotional damage.
That was accidental, but it worked out.
We're back at Landers McClarty Chevrolet.
Landers McClarty, man. We are not
some hot news.
funded by these people.
Red hot
Skip ahead.
The media, those hardcore journalists over there in the media, celebrating Vice President Kamala Harris's DNC speech, even though she avoided issues and simply focused on the vibes.
You will remember where you were when you heard this speech tonight from the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris. This is an inflection point in history.
She has this magical, charismatic quality in person. That was fierce and fearless, how she just delivered that.
Yeah.
Party poopers, no. We legalize fun. We legalize fun. We put the party back in the Democratic
It's like we're
Party.
children or something.
Very powerful speech. You got to go back, I think, to Barack Obama in 2008 for a Democratic speech like this.
The emotion and the feeling down here is, I don't know, 7-year-old's birthday party is how I would put it. There is joy and there's not a lot of thinking. It's a good time.
Not a lot of thinking, exactly. Did you hear what he said? Scroll that back. Scroll that back. The hell? It's in the article. It's in the article, though. Oh, because they don't want you to see the truth. Dear gosh. If that ain't a word salad. Because they don't have fathers in the household to beat their ass and keep them straight. Yeah, it's not. But we'll actually let's call a spade, and we need to, because of fatherless homes, right? Shitty parenting. Exactly. Hold on. Malik's saying he can't hear us or something. Can't hear you. Yep, nothing. I scroll back, nothing. Can't even hear me.
I don't know why. Oh, because it didn't unmute. How far back?
Oh, wait, no, you can hear me. You can hear me. Just can't hear you.
For how far?
Accounting, snooze fest.
Okay, so it's just in the screen share stuff.
Ah, yeah.
Great. Fantastic. Absolutely wonderful. I'm done with this. Let's see. Let's make sure I'm not having the same issue somewhere else. It's probably playing me twice. Yeah, because the audio input capture was muted. Yeah, I got to fix that. Let me fix that real quick before we do anything else.
It might be why we lost a lot of viewers all of a sudden.
It could be. I mean, it's possible. That's my bad, y'all.
It is what it is.
It is indeed what it is. Okay, so I've got that set to mute.
Yeah, we hear you now.
Audio mixer. Okay, we're going to copy that. We're going to paste it there. And we're just going to change that to that. And that should be good. And then for, what is that? Oh, that's the outro. Okay. Nope. Go back. This one. Let's see. Copy. Paste. We're going to change that to that. And now we should be good to go, and it'll unmute me every time. God damn. Okay. So, I don't know what all was heard and what wasn't heard. I know that they didn't hear me reading the article. I will post a link to that article in the description so that you could go read it for yourself. I'm not going to rehash all of that. I didn't know that you couldn't hear me, so that's my bad.
Basically, we talked about the fact that Kamala wanted to remove school resource officers from schools
I'll read this one again.
Oh, okay.
But the first article that I read, I'm not going to go back and read that. Okay, so Kamala in 2019 in South Carolina said, what we need to do about demilitarizing our schools and taking police officers out of schools, we need to deal with the reality and speak the truth about the inequities, not inequalities, because equity is her thing, around school discipline, where in particular black and brown boys are being expelled and or suspended as young as I've seen, as young as in elementary school. Now, what I said was that it probably has a lot less to do with the color of their skin and a lot more to do with their behavior, which goes back to my point about parents not parenting their children. Now, if you've followed any legislation for the past 50 years, you'll also know that the black and brown community has been explicitly targeted by the Democrat Party as, you know, the whole, well, we're going to take care of you, and it's not your fault. It's because your skin is different, and it's because America is inherently racist, and we're going to pull you out of the weeds and make sure that you guys have equity and you end up in the same place as the white people. Nope. It's because parents don't parent. There are no fathers in the homes. Democrats come around every 4 years when election season rolls around and says, oh, the Republicans are so racist. Yet Republicans have done more for the black community than any Democrat ever has, including the black Democrat president that we had, 8 years ago. So, yeah, it's not so much about the color of their skin as much as it is the behavior that they exhibit, which comes from parents not parenting and not having black fathers in the home. That's just what it is.
Yep.
So that's my take on it. So that was
I'm pretty much in agreement on that.
That was in reference to removing resource officers from schools, which is ridiculous. That's like the one place that you really want more resource officers. So a lot of it's just not making any sense. But, Joe, you said that you disagreed with the parents being arrested for the crimes of their children. I don't like setting that precedent. Now, I don't disagree with it. Like in this case, obviously the dad screwed up. Like, yes. Why the hell would you do that? But like, to just strictly look and say, hey, your kid did this. This is your fault too. It depends. Like if it's a young child, like this kid was how old? 14.
14? That's still a pretty young kid,
That's extremely young to be purchasing a child a firearm of that caliber.
Well, no, I'm okay with a child having access to that weapon with parental supervision, but correct. I don't believe they should just be able.
But what I'm saying is, I'm not going to purchase my child a firearm. If I want them to shoot, I'm going to take them and they can shoot one of my firearms.
No, I had firearms at that age.
Correct, but we're from a different generation. Our parents actually raised us.
Yeah, that's true. And yeah, we knew that if, we wanted to, if we pulled this shit, well, first of all, we'd be in jail, but
we would never make it to jail. Our mothers would kill us.
Right, exactly.
So, this whole thing is rather convenient that it happened when it happened because, Democrats, presidential election cycle, take the guns, yada, yada, yada. Kamala Harris has made it clear in the past that she supports a mandatory gun buyback, which, quite frankly, we're all quite tickled to hear you say that because, no. It just plays into their hand oh so well, right? Especially after, one of the lower courts, one of the lower Supreme Courts, like the state Supreme Court, just decided that machine guns are constitutionally protected?
What?
Yeah. That's the thing that happened a couple of weeks ago that I meant to talk about last week and forgot. Let's see if I can find that.
Yeah, that would be good. I do have a couple things in there where the White House has called for stricter gun control and gun bans, I think.
Okay, so here we go. A federal judge, let's share this real quick. We'll zoom in for you. A federal judge in Kansas has ruled that machine guns are protected under the Second Amendment, marking a significant victory for gun rights advocates. U.S. District Judge John Brooms, a Trump appointee, handed down the ruling in United States v. Morgan, where Tamori Morgan was charged with 2 counts of illegal machine gun possession. Brooms dismissed the charges using the Supreme Court's landmark Brune decision to argue that the government failed to demonstrate that machine gun regulations align with the nation's historical firearms tradition. Morgan's defense invoked the Brune ruling, which came down in 2022, establishing that any firearm regulation must be consistent with this nation's historical tradition of firearm regulation. The decision, written by Justice Clarence Thomas for the Republican-appointed majority, created a new standard for judging gun laws, one that Judge Brooms used to determine that federal machine gun restrictions are unconstitutional.
Hell yeah, boy!
Thanks. Brooms emphasized that the government could not provide historical precedent supporting such regulations, leading to his conclusion that the Second Amendment protects even fully automatic firearms. Uh-oh.
That gives me a boner.
I got such a freedom boner.
It's freedom boner, baby. Freedom boner.
Meanwhile, the Kamala Harris administration is just sitting there going,
He keeps kicking me in the dick. Why? Why does he keep kicking me in the dick?
And, you know, if you don't like it, you can just suck on
these nuts.
Oh my God, I love it. Love it. Because, you know, I'll tell you right now, the only thing that I truly believe that citizens should not be allowed to have is nuclear weapons. You want an RPG that functions? You can afford it. You want hand grenades? Cool. The dumbasses will weed themselves out.
Exactly.
I'm a Second Amendment absolutist. Nuclear weapons, I don't think anybody could have ever foreseen that those would be a thing. So no, I don't think that that's something that normal, everyday people should have.
The bigger things, you know, like rocket RPGs, you know, grenades, those definitely, I feel like we should be like, hey, if you're going to own these, it's okay, but please keep them locked up and away from children, because it is not hard to pull a grenade pin.
It's not funny. It's not funny. Don't laugh at this, but could you imagine a school shooting with a fucking RPG?
That would be terrible. That's not even funny.
The thought crossed my mind and I laughed because I had the thought. Not because the thought was funny, it was just because it's so insane. But I had the thought and it made me chuckle and I was like, fuck! Fuck!
You going to hell.
You know, where is it? I know I have it. Where is the sound? I don't know where the fuck button is.
Well, see, and that would be the argument too. You just brought it up. You told them about it, and now they're gonna be like, "Imagine school shootings with an RPG."
Listen, they're never gonna let us have RPGs. The fun part is that when the Civil War does break out, your RPGs are now our RPGs because that's how
they don't actually use RPGs.
Well, you know, your rocket launchers.
Yeah, we get whole ass rocket launchers.
RPGs are, you know, obviously Soviet technology and shit, but I'd still own one.
Are you drinking Screwball?
And Dr. Pepper.
Oh man,
it's so good.
I'm drinking Simply Spiked Lemonade.
Hey, you know those are good. We had those.
That's pretty good. They're pretty good.
We had those at the last in-person show. I brought them.
Remember? Oh, we did. Okay, yeah. You brought that. You got a variety pack.
Yes. Anyway, okay, so we're not going to play any videos on this Atlanta shooting because I don't want the name to be done. Now, what I will do is play exactly what the play for, you know, Kamala Harris is, thanks to Koyon Noir.
So before anyone knew any real information about the shooting in Georgia, Kamala Harris said this.
Before I begin, I do want to say a few words about this tragic shooting that took place this morning in Winder, Georgia. We're still gathering information about what happened, but we know that there were multiple fatalities and injuries. We've got to stop it. And we have to end this epidemic of gun violence in our country once and for all. You know, it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way.
No, you're absolutely right. It does not have to be this way. Parents should have to parent. And if you're not going to parent, don't have kids.
Yeah, exactly.
It's that simple. Like, for real, just don't. If you don't want to have the responsibility of raising a good human, don't fucking have kids. And some people just can't do it. Some people can't hack it as a parent. And that's fine. Just don't have kids.
Right.
As for me, I'm doing everything that I can to raise the best humans that I possibly can.
Oh, okay. So while we're on this subject, I'd like to bring up something that has come across my family recently. So, Justin, how many kids do you have to worry about keeping alive and turning into good little human beings?
4.
That's including Jocelyn, right?
Yes, because 3 boys and Jocelyn. Yes.
I couldn't remember if there was 4 or 3 boys. I couldn't remember.
There are 3 twins and the oldest.
So that's all on top of working a full-time job and going to school, right?
Yes.
And you do a pretty effective job, I like to think.
I would hope so.
Okay. And Kate also works a full-time job.
Correct.
On top of being a mother and probably taking a lot of the brunt of taking care of the kids.
Correct.
Because she's the mom. Moms in traditional society do that.
Yes.
Okay.
And granted, I'm not there every day with my daughter, right? That's irrelevant to the fact that I'm still responsible for raising her to be a good human.
Right. You still
I still provide guidance. I provide financial support. You know,
right.
I do.
You do what you can.
What I can, being as far away from her as I am.
Right. Exactly. So. Also,
because, again, I'll say this again. I talk to her almost every single day.
Yeah. Right.
There are days where we don't. Like, I'll call her and she doesn't answer, and she'll call me and I'm in the middle of something and can't answer. It's just, it is what it is. Life happens. But at the end of the day, she knows that I'm always here. She knows that she can always count on me for advice. She knows that I will do everything I can to make sure that she succeeds in the right ways.
Right. And also, I work 2 jobs, one of them full-time, the other one's a side job that I run my own business. I raise 2 boys. I also am in school, not full-time, but I am in school. Beth is in school full-time and also helps out at the school because of her scholarship. And then she also comes home and has to take Bryson to therapies multiple times a week. I forgot how many times, but it's multiple times a week. She has to take him to therapies. And then also has to be a mom, fix dinner, I'll do all that stuff, right?
Yep.
Well, recently, this has been a minute, I'm not going to name the individual, but we have 1 child. And both of them are working jobs.
Yes.
And their child is in school. Well, she has told Beth that she cannot handle her child being in school, that is too much for her. And they have 1 child. And as far
Joe, I've lost you. It would appear that we have lost Joe. I don't know if he's having an internet outage or a power outage. So give us a few moments and we will be right back. Okay, so Joe's power has went out, so I'm going to continue the show without him, as much as I don't want to. Give me 2 seconds. He is actually calling me. Give me just a moment. I'll be right back. Okay, I don't know exactly what he was going to say, but I would assume that it's, the normal stuff. I can't seem to get that to go away. Okay, so we are going to talk about the fact that Tim Walz's own family doesn't like him. Typically, I would say that this doesn't really matter. But his own family, granted, it's his cousins, but still family, don't like him. Not only that, but Jeff Walz, his brother, is a registered Republican in Florida who is going to be voting for Donald Trump. If your own family won't vote for you, what makes you think that the rest of the country should vote for you? There for a little while it was, I'm voting for Gus's dad. Okay, that's fine, but why? What policies do you like? What policies do you not like? To sit there and say, I'm going to vote for Gus's dad just because some assholes decided to make fun of him, that doesn't really sit well with me. I'm going to need some policy prescriptions that are going to make me want to vote for this person, not just, oh, well, Republicans were mean to his son. No, not quite how this works. How about policy? Well, if you look at his policies as governor of Minnesota, they weren't good. And I'm sure there are plenty of people who are going to be like, but he paid for college for everybody, making less than whatever dollar amount it is. Okay, that's all fine and dandy, but where'd that money come from? Oh, that's right. It came from the Minnesota taxpayer. Gonna have a problem with that because the only way to do that is to increase taxes. I don't like taxation very much. Our founders didn't either. So there's that, and then the people will say, well, he made feminine hygiene products available for everybody in schools. Yes, and he also mandated that they be placed in boys' bathrooms. I have a problem with that. Everything that I've seen from his policy standpoint has been passed with a very narrow majority in the Minnesota state government, oftentimes by one vote. And it's all just liberal shit. Like, none of it really makes any sense. Like, I understand providing a college education more than I understand putting tampons in boys' bathrooms. Then when you look past the policy and at the man himself, you see somebody who skipped out on his military service right as his unit was about to be deployed. And yes, he left before the deployment was announced publicly, but they know well in advance when they're going to get deployed. It's not just oh, hey, by the way, next month you guys are deploying. No, this is known well ahead of time. Because people have families. They have choices and decisions to make regarding, well, what do I do about my wife and my kids? Or, you know, what do I do about my sick mother, or, you know, this, that, and the other. They're not just going to be like, oh, by the way, you're deploying to Iraq next week. Nope, not quite how that works. So, to skip out on your unit right before they deploy, that's a bitch move. You know, kudos to you for serving for 24 years. That's awesome. I applaud that always. But you skipped out on your unit. And I got a problem with that. So, no, I think Joe's back. I'm not sure. So I will check. Nope, that is my wife. I don't know what she's doing, but it is my wife. So, again, to skip out on your unit in that way is disgusting to me. I don't agree with it. And then to also claim that you carried a weapon of war in Afghanistan. No, you didn't. The only time you've ever been to Afghanistan is with the congressional delegation. So you lied again. And then you lied about IVF as a campaign ploy, because you said that you and your wife had to use IVF to conceive your children, which you didn't. So that's also a problem for me. All around, I just have a general problem with the fact that you are a lying shitbag. And so does your family, apparently. So, Tim Walz, fuck you. And since Joe's not here, eat a dick. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. So, you know, it's going to be what it's going to be. But Walz is for Trump is pretty fucking funny, if you ask me. I'm like floundering here without Joe. I don't know what to do. I'm absolutely out of my element because normally I have somebody to bounce off of, and I don't this time. It looks like Kate's trying, but unsuccessfully. So, moving on from that, the next topic of discussion. Yep, I can hear you now. Okay. Thank God, I'm no longer by myself. His power went out. Yeah, so there's that. I'm by myself. What are you playing in there? Playing some Power Wash? Yeah, okay. Anywho, okay, so up next, so this is something that I don't want to talk about, but it's something that I'm going to have to talk about because it involves people who typically are labeled as independent media. Sorry, my shoe has come untied, and let's fix this. It's typically people labeled as independent media, and this is about Tim Pool and Benny Johnson in particular. There's a couple of other people involved in this whole debacle, but we're going to play the video. Check this out.
In a bombshell indictment, U.S. prosecutors allege a media company linked to conservative influencers who regularly reach millions, including Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, and Dave Rubin, was secretly funded by Russian state media employees whose goal was to amplify U.S. domestic division and spread Russian propaganda. Take a listen to Attorney General Merrick Garland breaking down the indictment.
We allege that as part of that effort, RT and its employees, including the defendants, implemented a nearly $10 million scheme to fund and direct a Tennessee-based company to publish and disseminate content deemed favorable to the Russian government. To implement this scheme, the defendants directed the company to contract with U.S.-based social media influencers to share this content on their platforms. The subject matter and content of many of the videos published by the company were often consistent with Russia's interest in amplifying U.S. domestic divisions in order to weaken U.S. opposition to core Russian interests, particularly its ongoing war in Ukraine. The company never disclosed to the influencers or to their millions of followers its ties to RT and the Russian government.
Russia, Russia, Russia. Now, to be clear, the U.S. Justice Department does not allege any wrongdoing on the part of the influencers themselves. Instead, it's accusing these two employees of Russia Today of funneling $10 million to a Tennessee-based media company that created Russia-friendly content, what they describe as Russia-friendly content. The indictment did not name the company that was widely believed to be called Tenet Media. Podcaster Tim Pool released a statement on X, writing in part, quote, "Should these allegations prove true, I, as well as the other personalities and commentators, were deceived and were victims. I cannot speak for anyone else at the company as to what they do or to what they are instructed. The Culture War podcast was licensed by Tenet Media. It existed well before any license agreement with Tenet, and it will continue to exist after any such agreement expires. The only change with the agreement was that the location of the live broadcast moved to Tenet's YouTube channel. I and TCW never produced any content for Tenet Media." He also added, "Putin is a scumbag. Russia sucks." Meanwhile, Penny Johnson said on X, quote,
keep doing that. So Tim Pool, Benny Johnson, Ruben, and a female whose name I can't remember, obviously did not know that they were being paid by the Russians. Therefore, it is idiotic to suggest that they were being Putin's puppets. Okay? The Putin's puppet narrative has gotten extremely old to me. I don't understand how Vladimir Putin can come out publicly and say, I want Kamala to win, and then still claim that Donald Trump is Putin's puppet. If Donald Trump was Putin's puppet, do you not think that Putin would say, oh, I want Trump to win?
Oh, yeah.
He absolutely would say, I want Trump to win. Right? So, the argument is tired. It's outdated. It's false. And at the end of the day, I don't understand how you can't see that the weakness of the Democrat Party is exactly why Putin would not want someone like Donald Trump to win the presidency again. You know, but at the end of the day, I don't think Putin really cares who wins, because no matter who wins, the American people are going to lose. Because if Kamala Harris wins, you're going to have destructive Democrat policies perpetuated in the United States, especially if Congress flips Democrat, which I am worried that it will. But additionally, if Trump wins, you're going to have 4 more years of, oh, Trump's a racist, Trump's a racist, Trump's a rapist, Trump's this, Trump's that, Trump's everything bad, orange man bad. That's what you're going to hear for the next 4 years if Donald Trump wins. No matter who wins, the American people lose and Putin wins because it sows chaos in the United States. To quote Dan Bongino, Putin doesn't care who wins. He only cares that there's chaos in the U.S. That's it. That's all he cares about. Now, Tim Pool has been doing some rather funny things on X since this whole thing happened. He has said on his X account he's now pro-war, which he's not. He said that he is now supporting Ukraine and Israel. He's not. He's put the Ukrainian flag and the Israeli flag in his screen name, which is hilarious. It's a hilarious amount of trolling that he is doing. I do not believe that Tim Pool has flip-flopped any of his positions. I still believe that he is vehemently anti-war. I still believe that he thinks that Ukraine is not our problem. And we kind of touched on it last week with the new glide missile that Ukraine has. They're accelerating the path to World War III by continuing this war. I vote that we just stop funding it altogether and let the chips fall where they may. If it turns into all-out war between Russia and Ukraine, which it already is, but if you see more advancement into Russian territory, there's a larger chance of a nuclear escalation. There's a larger chance of the conflict spreading and other nations becoming involved in a more direct manner. And I don't want that. I want the war to be over. I want them to stop killing each other. But that's not going to happen until you either kill Putin or Ukraine is ended. Because let's face it, at the end of the day, without outside assistance, Ukraine is not going to conquer Russia. Ever.
No.
It's not going to happen. They do not have the capability. And if they advance too far into Russia, I'm sure that China and what's that company right to the north of Ukraine? Oh yeah, Belarus. I'm pretty sure all of those countries will get involved and there will be no more Ukraine. So no matter how this ends, it doesn't look good for Ukraine in my opinion. I don't necessarily believe that Ukraine is in the wrong for defending themselves. I just don't believe that it is America's place or the world's place to fund this. By the way, the Germans have issued arrest warrants and arrested at least one of the two people involved in the Nord Stream pipeline bombing, which you would think that because it was a Russian pipeline, they wouldn't really care that much. But, oh yeah, that's right. Germany buys most of their gas from Russia. Weird.
Oh.
So, who's Putin's puppet? Is it Donald Trump or is it Germany now? Super weird. None of it looks good. None of it looks good at all. And I'm sorry, but Tim Pool, Benny Johnson, they're not Russian stooges. They'll never be Russian stooges. You can try to paint them as Russian stooges all you want. It's not going to work. Okay? At the end of the day, they are the least favorable people for Russia, but they disagree vehemently with the war in Ukraine and the American funding of the war in Ukraine, which makes them de facto pro-Russian to Putin. Okay? It's not because they're actually pro-Russian influencers. They're not. Now, when you look at the likes of somebody like Jackson Hinkle, who is a 100% Hamas sympathizer and Hamas supporter, who advocates almost daily, or was advocating for quite a while, almost daily, for the destruction of Israel because Zionist bad, that would be a more likely target for someone like Putin if they wanted to spread misinformation or, and I hate using that word, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's what it is, right? It's Russian propaganda. It's misinformation. Benny Johnson and Tim Pool, they're not going to spread that shit. Ever. Somebody like Jackson Hinkle probably would. He's obviously got a price. Because no person in their right mind would publicly support Hamas. It is absolutely terrifying. Double effect. What is that? Do I have two inputs going here? Is that what it is? Because that could be what it is.
Mystery.
Is that? Yeah. Okay. So is that better? I muted one of them. Probably should mute this one though.
You actually
Because
sound a lot better.
if yeah, so when I was messing with something earlier, it ended up being the wrong one that I messed with. Let's delete that real quick. Yep. Oh, that's much better.
Gay!
Rude.
Not what I thought that was gonna be.
Alright then, keep your secrets.
Anyway, okay, so again, I don't think that this is accurate in any way. I think that this is all bullshit. Just more of the same.
A year ago, a media startup...
It's going to be absolutely ridiculous from here to the end of October, beginning of November. This is not going to get any better. It's going to get substantially worse. The attacks are going to get more brazen. It is going to be gross. Okay? Now, I don't know about everybody else, but my plan for the debate on Tuesday, switching a little bit here, the debate on Tuesday, planning on airing it here. Don't know if it's going to work out, but that's what we're going to try to do. And that is on Tuesday of next week. It's a big day.
10?
I'm sorry, what?
What time?
What time? I do believe it's at 7 or 8.
Eastern Central.
Nope. Okay. Let me find out. Let's see.
Who has the debate? Who's in it?
It is Trump and Harris. Let's see. Where? Oh, it starts at 8 o'clock Central Standard Time. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a fun debate. It's most definitely going to be entertaining. But it kind of is what it is. So one of the last things I really wanted to talk about was Donald Trump's sentencing got delayed.
What?
So the judge, Juan Merchan, has decided to delay sentencing until after the election. This is according to CNN. Former President Donald Trump will not be sentenced in his New York criminal case until after the 2024 election. Judge Juan Merchan announced Friday, explaining that his decision to delay the sentencing is in part to avoid any appearance of affecting the outcome of the presidential race. Merchan wrote in a new 4-page letter that he would sentence Trump on November 26 if necessary, in response to a request from Trump's lawyers to push back the sentencing. Trump was convicted in May on 34 counts of falsifying business records to cover up a hush money payment to an adult film star alleging an affair with the former president. But Trump's sentencing has been on hold for months after Trump's lawyers pushed to have the conviction tossed because of the Supreme Court's ruling on presidential immunity. I don't think that's why they pushed to have it tossed. I think it's more because it's not true and it was an unfair trial. So, Merchan noted that the upcoming presidential election in his decision to delay sentencing, saying that part of his reason for doing so was to avoid the appearance that sentencing was intended to influence the November election. Adjourning decision on the motion and sentencing, if such is required, should dispel any suggestion that the court will have issued any decision or imposed sentence either to give an advantage to or to create a disadvantage for any political party or any candidate for any office. Trump expressed appreciation for the language Merchan used in delaying his sentencing, noting that it will only commence if necessary. I greatly appreciate the words in the letter from the judge. He said, if necessary, being utilized in the decision, because there should be no if necessary. The case should rightfully be terminated immediately, Trump said during remarks to the Fraternal Order of Police in North Carolina. The former president also falsely stated that sentencing was postponed because he did nothing wrong. Well, it probably has a little bit to do with the fact that he probably didn't do anything wrong. In addition to pushing back the sentencing until November 26, Merchan wrote that he would decide on Trump's motion to vacate the verdict because of the Supreme Court's immunity decision on November 12th, which is also after the election. Merchan wrote in his letter that the Supreme Court rendered a historic and intervening decision with its immunity ruling. Trump campaign spokesperson Stephen Chung responded to the decision, saying there should be no sentencing in the Manhattan DA's election interference witch hunt. As mandated by the United States Supreme Court, this case, along with all other Harris-Biden hoaxes, should be dismissed, Chung said. So it's just one of those things where nobody really knows why he's delaying it, but we all have our suspicions, right?
Yes.
So Joe will not be coming back. Substation went down in his neck of the woods. Malik says, I think they're doing it for two reasons. They're scared it'll bump his popularity again, or they know he's going to win and they're backing off in hopes he doesn't go after them later. Unfortunately for them, Trump is absolutely going to go after them later if he does win. And it doesn't matter what they do, because I don't think they're going to let Trump be president again. I don't think they're going to do anything that would put that man in power. I think they're going to do everything they can to take him down, right? So the idea that this is a positive is correct. It is a positive for Trump because now he doesn't have to deal with the sentencing right in the middle of the election cycle. Actually, in 9 days, I do believe, was when he was supposed to be sentenced. But at the same time, if you look at it through the lens of, well, why are they really doing it? It's because they don't believe he's going to win. And they're worried that if they do allow him to be sentenced and Merchan does the predictable thing and puts him in jail, now you have a convicted felon in prison who won the presidential election, and then they have to decide whether or not the will of the people should be followed. And I think that's a big problem for them. I think that no matter how they try to spin it, the American people are going to see it as an the usurpation of democracy in general. Like, do we live in a democracy? No, but we do have democratic elections in which the will of the people should be heard. Again, I'm not going to advocate for an abolishment of the Electoral College because I do believe that it exists for a very specific, very meaningful reason, and that reason is to protect the majority of the minority of Americans from the majority of Americans. Because pure democracies never work; they always end up in tyranny. I don't think that 51 people should be able to force 49 other people into doing what they want just because they had 2 more votes. I don't think that's the way that anything should work. I think that it should work exactly the way it has worked for, over 100 years in America. You elect representatives, and you have to pass things with an overwhelming majority requiring concessions from both sides. And I think that's how it should go. I don't believe for a second that anyone should be able to just run roughshod over other people because they got 1 more vote than the other people. Like Tim Walz in Minnesota. So it's just not good no matter how it plays out. I don't see a decent way out of this for any of them. And honestly, my concern is that they're actually going to cheat this time instead of just rigging everything through the media. And then, you can say what you want about the ballot harvesting and all this, that, and the other. The evidence just isn't there for widespread voter fraud, but I do believe that they rigged it in every other possible way. I believe that the mail-in balloting was unconstitutional. It was designed in a way that would ensure Joe Biden won, because the states that enacted it were largely Democrat-ran states. So when you just look at it at face value, yeah, it looks like election fraud, but really, in the ways that they did it, they got away with essentially tilting the scale. So again, I'm not one of the people that believes in massive voter fraud, but I do believe that the scale was tipped in an unfair way via some of the policies that were enacted because of COVID. So it's getting worrisome for me. Not only do I disagree with Kamala's policies, I believe that she will do irreparable damage to the United States, both in terms of, financially to the citizens and in terms of keeping us safe from foreign actors. I don't think anyone with half a brain takes her seriously, and they all know that she's weak. And that she'll flip-flop, just depending on where the political wind is blowing. I think we talked about it last week. Kamala's all of a sudden in favor of a border wall. Didn't you say that was racist, like, all the way up until you became the surprise nominee? Sounds like a flip-flop to me.
Yeah.
Didn't you say that you wanted to end fossil fuel and that you would absolutely ban fracking or support a ban on fracking? Oh, that's right, you did, until it became politically expedient for you to say the opposite, just to make sure that you got the votes of the people that it would impact. Convenient.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to say that Trump doesn't do some of the same stuff. He does. Look at his vote in Florida on the abortion matter. He voted in favor because at the end of the day, he believes that there should be some access, but not unlimited access. And he's been very public about that. And the measure on the Florida ballot is a little bit more extreme than I think even he would agree with, but does it look politically good for him in terms of everyone that's not a Republican? Yeah, it kind of makes him look moderate. It's like, okay, maybe this guy's not as bad as they say he is. He's publicly supporting a ballot measure that would provide abortion access, blah, blah, blah. The problem with that is I don't think people bought it. even though he's publicly stated that he believes in the three big exceptions, rape, incest, life of the mother, which I'll tell you all day, every day. Personally, I agree with that. I think that those are the main reasons that I would agree with someone ending a pregnancy. Because you didn't choose to be pregnant at that point. Now, when you choose to have sex,
It's different.
that's a little bit different. You chose this. You knew the possibilities. You knew the consequences of your actions. You knew that you could potentially...
You knew that there was preventative measures to take to not become pregnant when choosing said act.
You knew that your consequences could potentially, or that your actions could potentially have consequences. I got a problem with you ending that pregnancy. Honestly, I have a problem with ending any pregnancy, but I understand and could indeed support someone who wanted to end a pregnancy that they didn't choose to partake in the act. Or someone whose life is in danger if the pregnancy goes to term. That's just me, though, and my general rule of thumb is I don't want to force my beliefs on you. Not everybody's going to believe the same things that I believe or that anybody else believes, but you're going to have to find common ground. And that's the beautiful part about our government, is that it is designed to force common ground to be found. Unfortunately, money, political parties, and a plethora of other reasons have made it impossible to find common ground. At this point, we're the most divided that we've ever been as a nation, and I don't know how you come back. I don't think that Democrats are the complete problem. I don't think that Republicans are the complete problem. I think it's a combination of outrage culture and cancel culture and, well, you're a racist and, well, just it's a combination of everything up to this point that has made life hell for normal people. And I don't like it. I don't like any of that.
There's a lot of unhinged people out there.
There are, and the shooter in Atlanta is one of those people. He's unhinged. So I think that America in general needs to have a come to Jesus meeting and realize we've all of us been deceived by the media, by politicians, by talking heads. And I do my best on this show to not be one of those talking heads. I don't want to sow division, but at the same time, when I see bullshit, I'm going to call bullshit. And it seems like we're getting a lot of that from strictly the Democrat side. You have your moments where you get some bullshit out of the Republican side. Like, I don't know, Lindsey Graham being in Ukraine recently. Don't really like that. I don't know, Mitch McConnell freezing on live television. Don't like that. It's not just Democrats that are the problem. Republicans are also part of the problem. And if they're not answerable to us, their constituents, it makes you wonder, who are they answerable to? And I think Chris Cuomo kind of shone some light on that at the DNC. We played that clip last week about, or maybe it was either last week or the week before, whenever the DNC was, how, the booths at the DNC that were up in the upper levels they started at $500,000. You really think it's school kids up there in the booths at the DNC? No, it's fucking rich mega donors. If that's who's paying for all this shit, who do you think these politicians are really answering to? It ain't us. Because if it was us, they'd have term limits. If it was us, they wouldn't be able to trade stocks. If it was us, they'd have single-page, one-issue bills. It's not us calling the shots. Our representatives do not represent us anymore. And I do believe that part of the problem that led to the American Revolution was taxation without representation. I'd argue now that the argument is legislation without representation. Because it's not us. We're not the ones calling the shots. We're not the ones making the decisions. It should be us. We the people hold the power in this nation. But because of the power structure being financially monopolized by people who have more money than other people, who just want their will to be done no matter what, the financial incentive to listen to the people is pretty minute. Financial incentive to listen to mega donors, now that's lucrative. So, what do we do in this instance? Voting new faces in doesn't help. Who do you think they're going to answer to? The same people that everybody else has been answering to. And it's not the people. It's the giant corporations. It's the mega donors. It's all the people that the Democrats claim to want to tax who are footing the bill for all of their little woke policies. Do you really think that they're going to tax the shit out of those people? No, they're not. Cameraman says the only option is to boogaloo. And I don't disagree. I don't want that, though. I want there to be a path forward where we can all talk to each other and be heard and not shouted down because I don't agree with your idea, so it's racist. Or I don't agree with your idea, so it's sexist. Or any whatever bullshit reason they can throw at you to make it seem like you are the problem with this country. No, the problem with this country is that people will not listen to each other. We have knee-jerk reactions that automatically assign guilt over whatever the fuck you want to assign guilt for. Okay? I'll be the first to tell you, I am not ashamed of being white. Being white has never done anything for me. Okay? Being white led me to shitty credit. Being white led me to a lot of fucking debt. Being white didn't buy my house for me. Being white didn't get me my job. Being white is like the least important part of who I am. Just like being black is the least important part of who Malik is. I don't give a shit that Malik is black. Malik's my brother. No matter what. Cameraman, you're creepy as shit. You're still my brother. No matter what. We're all here to do the same thing. Live our lives and espouse freedom and liberty. And that's all I really care about. And if a boogaloo is what it takes, then a boogaloo is what they'll get. But I would rather not. So, that's just me. And I've gone on kind of a rant. And I don't really give a shit. If you don't like it, don't listen. Now, there is something going on right now that I'm not sure about because this happened recently. Apparently, there was a shooting along I-75 in Kentucky. I don't know any of the details on this. This happened at 6:45 local time for Kentucky. So, like, that would have been like 3 hours ago. There's not much that I can tell you, so we're just going to let this coverage actually speak for itself. Check this out.
On some breaking news that we are getting word of at this moment, a shooting near the I-75 in Kentucky. I'd like to put up this tweet here from the governor of Kentucky, Andy Beshear, is saying this: Kentucky, we are aware of a shooting on I-75 in Laurel County. Law enforcement has shut the interstate down in both directions at exit 49. Please avoid the area. We will provide more details once they are available. So a little bit more context as to this, a developing story that we are monitoring here at Live Now from Fox. The shooting being investigated in Kentucky near I-75. The Laurel County Sheriff's Office first put out an alert around 6:45 p.m. local time to avoid I-75 in a particular area in London, Kentucky, due to an active shooter situation. The office said in a post on Facebook that, quote, numerous persons had been shot, but didn't elaborate. The mayor of London, Randall Weddle, also posted on his official Facebook page to avoid the area until further notice. Governor Andy Beshear, as I had mentioned, saying his office was aware of a shooting on I-75 and said law enforcement had shut down the interstate in both directions. Again, this is the developing story, and still we are working to get more information. Another tweet here from the governor saying, I am receiving initial reports from the Kentucky State Police and our Office of Homeland Security. Together, we are actively monitoring the situation and offering support in any way possible. Please pray for everyone involved. It's just one of those breaking news situations that we are going to monitor throughout this evening. We don't have too many details on exactly how many people were shot, if anybody was critically injured, or if anyone has died. We are working to get all of that. Again, we are monitoring the Facebook pages and also the social media pages of all of these local law enforcement agencies and local officials that are monitoring this situation.
Okay, so cameraman says this is also part of the problem. Guns are legal, people get shot. The only thing that reporting on such a thing does is to create hysteria in regards to legal firearms. So, I don't disagree with you, but in terms of the current issues, this is a big one because of Kamala Harris, because of Tim Walz. They have a vested interest in making sure that liberal media outlets report these things in a negative light for everyone who is vehemently anti-gun, so that they can do the same tired argument, it's the guns. If you were to place, and I said this earlier about the school shooting in Atlanta, if you were to place a firearm in that school and just leave it there, put it in a wall, put it wherever you need to, it will kill exactly 0 people on its own. It takes a person to pull the trigger. The problem is not firearms. The problem has never been firearms. Nothing that you do to regulate a firearm is ever going to be enough. Ever. Nothing will ever stop this, because people who want to do these things will continue to find firearms in order to kill people. And there's a troll in the chat. Ridicule him mercilessly. So, cameraman, you say, if they could have done such a thing, they would have already done it. There would be no hyperbole about it, but they can't, so it's nothing more than a dog whistle to get the snowflakes hysterical. If it wasn't a gun, it would be knives. If not that, then big sticks. You're right. It absolutely would be. It would be a knife. It would be a stick. It would be a baseball bat. It would be whatever they could possibly get their hands on. So it's just one of those situations where it doesn't really matter what you do. it's going to end badly. Enjoy your time out, Ken, you little fucker. So, I don't disagree with you, cameraman. I don't disagree at all. I don't think that there's anything that can be done about it. Because, again, if you try to legislate something out of existence, it's only going to be available to people who mean to do harm. So, I do, however, want to know more about this shooting. Oh boy. Okay, so at least 5 people are believed to have been shot near I-75 in Kentucky, and a manhunt is underway for the suspect, whose name I will not be saying, because I don't agree with that. And I'm not going to share the screen because it shows a picture of him, and I don't believe that this person deserves any coverage. Just after 6:30 p.m., the Laurel County Sheriff's Office announced that an interstate highway at exit 49 and US 25, 9 miles north of London, was closed due to an active shooter situation. The highway has since been reopened, but the search continues for the shooter. After 8:30 p.m., the Sheriff's Office identified the person of interest in the shooting. Authorities warned against approaching him. He is considered armed and dangerous. The shooter is still at large, Randall Weddle, the mayor of London, said. The subject or subjects have not been apprehended, he said, but emphasized that authorities are searching for the suspect in an area of rugged terrain and a lot of tree lines. Although initial reports said numerous persons had been shot, Weddle clarified that 7 people were injured and none have died. So he was a shitty shot. Got it. In a Facebook video update, he added that not all of the injuries were due to gunshot wounds. Some were wounded due to an accident. 5 people were shot in the accident, a Laurel County Sheriff's Office deputy told the New York Times. The victims have not been named and their conditions are not immediately known. So, this is just more shit. It's just going to continue this way until people realize that it's not the guns, it's people. People are the problem. And it's not normal people, it's people who are very sick. And at the end of the day, it's not going to get any better. And the talk of disarming law-abiding citizens is only going to make it worse, because now you've got all of us avid Second Amendment absolutists who are fully prepared to defend our right as a God-given right. That piece of paper, the Constitution, does not grant us our rights. God does. If you don't believe in God, whatever creator you do believe in, the universe, whatever it is that led to us being here, gave us the right to protect ourselves and our loved ones from not only foreign enemies, but also domestic enemies, including but not limited to the federal government. And, you know, I don't see a way out that doesn't end in bloodshed. So you can advocate whichever way you want. I don't care. The Constitution is very clear that, as cameraman agreed, we have unalienable rights granted to us by our Creator. In my case, that would be God. In your case, it may not be. Whatever. It doesn't matter who you believe created the universe, or if you believe the universe came out of nothing. We have unalienable rights. And my rights do not end where your safety begins. My rights end when I die. And I will continue to say that, and I will continue to fight for exactly that. I will continue to advocate for people having their inalienable God-given rights to free speech, firearms, protection against unlawful search and seizure, all of the things that we are granted by our Creator that the government can't take away from us. The Constitution is not a list of things the government can do. It's a list of things the government can't do. So, at the end of the day, personal liberty overall. I don't agree with any restriction on things that I want to do, or the cameraman wants to do, or that dipshit Ken who came in there in the chat just saying stupid shit wants to do. He has every right to do that. I also have every right to tell him to shut the fuck up and mute him for 24 hours, which is exactly what I did. Because at the end of the day, if you're not adding anything constructive to the conversation, I don't want to fucking talk to you. You're just annoying. And repeatedly typing bear into the chat doesn't add anything. It just distracts from what's actually happening. So, for me, again, it's going to be personal liberty overall. But that's really all I had to talk about tonight, and without Joe here, it doesn't feel right to do any of the other segments. So, we're going to call it a night and enjoy the rest of our Saturday evening. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your night. I'm giving you back about an hour and 15 minutes of your time because the show normally goes till 11. But without any delays from Joe and I interrupting each other, it went pretty quick. So, with that, I'm Justin. Tally ho, lads.
Okay.